Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy Drastic Quilt. Today I got another Magic related video for you guys because if you saw in the last Magic sort of video, I alluded at the end that I completed my collection of the Dark. So today, I figured I'd actually go over my collection with you. Now honestly, it's weird. The Dark doesn't seem too expensive of a set, but this was probably the most expensive one out of all four of the ones I've made so far. And like this, like I put Mirage together before the Reserve List boom, half of Visions before the Reserve List boom, and then Weatherlight was during the Reserve List boom, which actually kind of sucked because a lot of the prices retraced a bit, but they'll go back up. But the Dark here, the Dark is a little bit different. This was at the very end of the Reserve List boom, so all the cards had already gone up in price, but they were slowly starting to come back. And thankfully, I don't think much is actually retraced with anything from the Dark. So we'll take a look through. This set was weird. They were 60-pack boxes. There's 8 cards in each pack. There's technically only uncommons and commons in this set, so there's not really a rare. There's technically like U1 and U2 and C1 and C3 or something like that. Anyways, U1s, U2s are pretty much considered rare. See anything as a common. So let's take a look through. So, Exorcist here, that's one of the Reserve List cards. Cleansing, I think, is also Reserve List. I don't think anything else here is. But I believe Exorcist is one of them, like, one of them big cards from back in the day. I believe people used to use this guy with things that let you untap them. Ah, just flipping a page, you see so much here. It's weird to see cards like... It's weird to see cards nowadays with this sort of artwork. Because you would never see some stuff like this. Like, let's take a look at this guy here. Knights of the Thorn. This was actually the last card I needed to complete this set, and it took forever to get here. I'll just hold it nice and close to the camera for you guys. I love the art on this card, but you know, it's a 4-mana 2/2, protection red and bandit. So there's like nothing going on with this card that's really like unique, but it's still reserveless. And it's still like up there in price. I think it's like 20 bucks or so. Yeah, Mr. Goblin War, Goblin Hater. We got Martyr's Cry. We got the Preacher here. This is I think like the second or third most expensive card. Just be aware though, online, if you're buying anything near mint, you're gonna get chips and stuff on the frame of the card. You know, like it's arguably like light play. Like when they see near mint, they're talking like there's a minimal wear. Okay, if you want like an actual like mint pack fresh card, you're gonna want to go to like game stores. You're gonna want to search around the country. You're gonna want to like talk to people over eBay. You know, ask them questions. Are there nicks here and there? Ask them for more pictures. Thibodeau's Crusade here, I do have 2 copies. I accidentally bought a second copy thinking I didn't get this card. And then it came in the mail. They're both in kind of the same sort of condition. Light play near mint. More on the near mint side. They're nice. I got them in sleeves. I'm keeping them together in the set. Because I don't think I'm ever going to use a 3-mana board wipe that just destroys goblins. Doesn't really seem too good. We got Witch Hunter here. This is... The Dark had a lot of cards in the set that were just like so off theme. Like you have Witch Hunter here that does 2 things that white doesn't do. It does direct damage to players, and it bounces creatures to their hand. It has a red ability and a blue ability on a white creature. It is all white costing. So it's not like a 2-color creature or a 3-color creature, it's just white. Weird, right? Amnesia, this card's so iconic. This is one of those commons or uncommons from the set that's still worth money even though there's no like desirability. It's just the art alone that's desirable. Apprentice Wizard here, this is an uncommon. This is one of the more expensive uncommons actually. I think it's like 10 bucks for this guy. you can pick up cheaper copies of him. He's pretty good. You know, 3 mana, blue, tap him, add 3 colorless. It's good. You can play enchantment or artifacts off him, like colorless spells. It's pretty cool. What else we got here? We got Leviathan. This card, you know, like you can pick up copies of it for like $1, but the original dark copy is like $30 or something. It's stupid. It's so weird. It's just because this set is only like 60 to 75 million cards, period. And here we have another reserve list card here, Mana Vortex. I'll take it out of the binder so you guys can get a nice close-up look of it. Something like 60 bucks Canadian for this guy now. I think it shot all the way up to 80 at one point. It's hard to find any of the dark cards in good condition. Just be aware that if you can, try to buy from like your local game store first. Usually they'll give you like a pretty decent deal on stuff like that. I want to talk about Eater of the Dead here. This guy isn't super rare. I think he comes in like the U2 slot in the dark pack, or it might be a common actually, because this card here, it actually combos with Phoenix, the god that mills. Phoenix says each creature you control has tap. Target player mills cards equal to the tap creature's toughness. This guy here has exile a card from your graveyard, untap Eater of the Dead. Exile a creature card from a graveyard to untap Eater of the Dead. Which is an interesting ability, you know? Like, they probably thought way back when, oh, this card can be used to block now. It can attack and it can block, and it's in black, and like, this is like kind of like pseudo-vigilance. But then, it turned out to be like a big combo thing. And for some reason, like, I've never been comboed out by either the Dead and Phoenix, and I've played so much Commander, and it's just never happened. Frankenstein's Monster. This card's a bit of a meme on the reserve list. It's never really been like super expensive. Like, I think even now after the boom of the reserve list, it's only like 30 bucks. Which has always kind of like surprised me because it's Frankenstein's Monster for... How do you not want, you know, hundreds of this card? Like, I'm pretty sure before the reserve list boom, it was something like... This is ballparking like maybe 15 bucks. That card is ridiculously cheap for what it is. Like, sure, it's a bad card, but like, if you know me, you know, I got Brushwikes for days. I believe that meme cards on the reserve list should be respected. They should have more value than they do. Like, let's take a look at like Thunder Spirit, for example. It's a 3 mana 2/2 flying first strike, and like, I don't know how much exactly it's worth, but it's a few $100 just for one of those cards. There is Frankenstein's Monster, I think, is a U1 or a U2. So there's probably like 4 times the amount of Frankenstein's Monsters in the world than there is Thunder Spirits. But still, I don't understand why there's such a difference in price. Thunder Spirit was sure an iconic card back in the day, but it's not really that iconic now. You know, like, it's pretty bad actually. Like, we have cards that are like 3 mana 2/3s with flying, death touch, and lifelink, and yet people still want this weird 2/2 with flying and first strike. Anyways, I could go on for days about how meme cards should be a thing respected all over the reserve list, but whatever. We have Nameless Race, that's a reserve list card. Never really struck fancy with me. We got Ragman. I think he's hilarious because he's just a bunch of rags. You know, before the big creature type change, he was just a summoned Ragman, which I thought was hilarious. The Fallen, another very iconic, the dark card. People respect this card. People fear this card just because of the art, the style, how everything is. Season of the Witch here. There's a bit of a trend in the Four Horsemen sets where there's just like, every set has to have like a cool black enchantment. Like, there's the Abyss, Chains of Mephistopheles, there's What else is there? There's the 2-mana one that destroys artifacts. There's a lot of them across all the Four Horsemen sets. And I think Season of the Witch is the least appreciated out of all of them. I'm pretty sure right now you can get them for like 60 bucks. Again, go to your local game store, you might be able to get it cheaper. It's a decent card for like Commander. Just saying. Word of Binding, another card that kind of does something outside of the color category it should be doing. You know, it's a black card that taps creatures. Just taps any number of creatures. It's weird. Ball Lightning, very iconic. This is the first printing of it. These are actually very expensive to get from the Dark. These are like 60 bucks. You know, it's not a reserve list card, it's a very iconic card from Magic's history. You know, it sees play here and there in Modern and like weird, like non-competitive, more casual sort of style decks. Sees Fringe playing Commander because again, it's just 6 damage for 3 mana, which is decent. Blood Moon, iconic, Modern staple, Legacy staple. You know, just a great card. See it in Commander every so often. It's like $100 from the Dark. Again, you should be buying stuff like this. Stuff that is definitely going to keep its price or go up. Eternal Flame, another reserve list card. Not very iconic, but it has been creeping up in price lately. We got the Goblin Tribal here. We got Goblin Wizard leading the charge here. Goblin Wizard, it's, I think, still like $200. Now, I paid $250 for mine. I know it's a bit of a ripoff, but it is a beautiful copy. Almost nowhere. There's one little ding in the top right corner, so you can't really get this one graded, but it is a beautiful, beautiful Goblin Wizard, and I'm happy to have it in my collection. I think Mana Clash is playable. Inferno, I think, is actually reserve list. And it's not a bad board wipe. You know, 7 mana instant speed. You gotta keep that in mind. Instant speed. 6 damage to all creatures and players. Not bad. Not bad at all. I don't know how it has been errated since it's been printed, because now we have Planeswalkers, and they did the thing where, like, you can, like, redirect damage, so this is, like, 6 damage to each creature, and then 6 damage to either each player or each Planeswalker, to some Planeswalkers, to some players, and all Planeswalkers, I don't know. Definitely look out for that. Orc General here. Orc General, sacrifice 1 Orc or Goblin to give all Orcs +1/+1 until end turn. I think this guy's like common. I can't remember exactly. He might not be reserve list. Nah, he's definitely... I can't remember. I can't remember at all. He's cheap, he's only like $5. Just because we don't have a lot of Orcs in Magic. But if they ever decide to bring back that tribe, that'll be one of those creatures that just magically goes up in price out of nowhere. Okay, we got Elves of Deep Shadow. Again, another common, but it's very iconic in this set. Elves of Deep Shadow has always been one of those cards that people love just the art, the ability. You know, this probably saw a lot of play back in the day because of how different it was. Gaia's Touch, very underrated common from the Dark. This card allows you to play an extra basic forest every turn for 2 mana, and you have the ability to sacrifice it to add 2 green to your mana pool. Very underrated common. I think it's only like $2 or $3. If you have any mono green decks in Commander, I recommend that you get a copy just to have in the deck. You know, if anything, this can ramp you mana. Like on turn 2, you have 2 forests, you play it, you play another forest, and then you sacrifice it for 2 green, then you have 3 mana on turn 3. I mean, 3 mana on turn 2. So it's kind of like a Dark Ritual? No, more like a Pyretic Ritual. But you have to have a forest in it. Hidden Path, reserve list card. Oh, another thing, Gaia's Touch. There's 2 variations of it. There's one where the text and the mana costs are actually kind of shifted to the left a bit. I think I have 2 copies of the one with it shifted. One's in the deck, and I think one's in the back of this binder. But I thought it was a cool kind of misprint to have. Okay, Hidden Path, reserve list card, has been going up in value lately. It's something like $55, I think, American. This is like a $70 Canadian card. It's really surprising because this card wasn't really that expensive for the longest time. And now people, I think, are just sort of speculating on it because it is reserve list, and because we have been getting more support for like mono green decks in Commander. Like we now have that green-black scroll from Modern Horizons 2, which I think is actually kind of maybe doing something with this card, because it already has Forest Walk. It's like making people think, oh, what else can we do with Forest Walk? You know, and then we also got the Urborg style land for green, which means that green has a way to make people have forests for no additional cost to the green player or their mana base, which is also a very important thing to keep in mind. So this is another one of those cards that just took, you know, 2 cards to really like jack up the price of it. And this is a perfect example of how the reserve list will only continue to go up. As Wizards prints more and more cards will be worth more and more money. You know, it makes sense. You know, there's more cards to combo with those cards. Who knows, maybe Brushwagg will be 20 bucks one of these days. Well, we'll see. Okay, let's continue on. Niall Sylvain, another underrated commander card. You know, 4 mana, regenerated creature. If you're in a stalemate with another opponent, this can be kind of decent. You know, and like, if you're playing a mono green commander deck, which is where this card will show up, it's good for like devotion. So if you have a Nykthos Shrine to Nyx in play, or a Nyx Lotus, you can make a ton of mana just from having a Niall Sylvain in play. Plus, it's another card that I consider to be kind of Brushwaggish, where it's kind of Brushwaggish. It's kind of a meme card. Like, look at it. Look at this oof. It's an oof. I'm gonna take it out of the binder just to show you guys. It's an oof. Look how it's looking at you. That's kind of unsettling. You know, and it has the flavor text. This is his domain, and while you remain here, you must value all life as you value your own. So it's kind of like a threat. I don't know. I love him. I love him. I think I have... Actually, yeah, if you look in the background here, I have 2 graded copies of him. A 8.5 and a 9. I paid like 50 bucks for the 8.5 and 100 bucks for the 9. I don't regret buying them. They're just gonna go up in price over time, and honestly, I like having them there just to look at. It's kinda cool. So Scarwood Bandits, another card that's been creeping up in price over time. I think it's like 20 bucks now. It's a good card for like Fight Club, right? No, I'm thinking of something else. This guy is good. You know, he steals your opponent's artifacts unless they pay mana to stop it. You know, when he leaves play, he does return the artifacts, which kind of makes sense. You know, it wouldn't really make sense for green to have such powerful abilities to just gain control of artifacts permanently. But there's another card that kind of breaks that sort of boundary between the color palette. We got Tracker here. This guy is good with Fight Club. This guy, I'm surprised, was so cheap for the longest time because Fight Club decks are a thing. You know, have a creature with Death Touch, with high toughness, and just slap it into another dude. It's perfect. Keep your opponents off creatures permanently. Wormwood Treefolk has been going up in price. It's only because it's a Treefolk. I think it's just because of the tribal abilities, because the card isn't that amazing. You know, it can gain Forest Walk and Swamp Walk, but it deals 2 damage to you every time you activate one of those abilities. So it's not that amazing. You know, it's a 5-mana 4/4. Barrel's Cage, not reserve list. I just have really fond memories of using this card. At one point, I was such a small child and I had no clue how the rarities worked back in these sort of sets. I didn't know that they didn't have the different colored set symbols. So I made a Pauper Commander deck, and I had this card in it. And I played it against my friend, and then after that game, when I won because I had a Barrel's Cage in play, he was like, oh yeah, that card's actually a rare. So I have, you know, fond memories of it. Book of Wrath, I think it's reserve list, I think it's a uncommon, I don't know. Oh, here we go. Dark Sphere, for some reason, is worth a lot of money. Is not that great of a card, but I think it's just because of the 0-mana artifact. This is the first printing of Felawar Stone. This printing will always be worth money, because Felawar Stone is a great mana rocking commander. You know, usually it will tap for any color of mana. For 2 mana, it's decent. Fountain of Youth. This card for some reason does hold value, even though, again, just like Dark Sphere, it's not that great. 0-mana artifact, 2 tap at the game, 1 life. You know, back in the day, this was probably a good artifact just because not a lot of creatures really dealt too much damage. But nowadays, it's kind of meh, you know? It's still worth money. There's a variant of it that has, like, actual hair printed onto the card. Unfortunately, I don't have that variant. I wish I did. It's so hard to find them nowadays. Reflecting Mirror, Reserve List. I think Necropolis I think Necropolis is Reserve List too. Rune Sword, just like Fountain of Youth, it has a variant with a hair printed on it. I think that variant's worth more than the regular one, but the card itself is not worth that much. Scarecrow, I think it's Reserve List. It's a decent card. 6 mana tap. Until end of turn, all damage done to you by flying creatures is reduced to 0. So if you're playing against a deck that's like a dragon deck, or just has a lot of creatures with flying, you know, Scarecrow can just save the day. Skull of Orm, it's a really cool card because it can actually bring back enchantments from your graveyard to your hand in more decks than just white. So, you know, gotta mention that. Stone Calendar. This is a card that's been speculated on for years now. I think it's finally up to like $40 or something like that. It's not a great card, but it is a Reserve List, and it does have a cool ability. Reducing all your spells by 1 mana. It's okay. It's an okay card. First printing of Tormod's Crypt. Iconic card, sees play in Modern, Commander. I don't know if it actually sees play in Legacy. I could see it seeing play there. You know, when it's in Standard, it sees play there. It's an okay card. It's the first printing. It's worth money in this set. I think I was able to get 2 copies of it for like $15. It's a decent card. City of Shadows here. This is a Reserve List card. It was like $15 for the longest time, and now it's jumped up to like $100. This is an example of an underrated sort of land that's been out for a long time that is Reserve List. All the lands that kind of don't have a downside right now in the Reserve List are going up in price. Like we saw it with the Weatherlight lands that I told you guys about, you know, the Scorched Ruins and the Lotus Vale and the Winding Canyons. But now we're seeing it with, you know, lands like the Alliance's lands, City of Shadows, Yavimaya. Oh, what's that called? A land that regenerates creatures. Although that's been going up over time for the longest time, but it's just gone up way, way more. And Gaia's Cradle, you know, all the Urza's lands are going up too. It just shows people want good mana bases, and they're willing to pay a lot of money for it. Maze of Ith, I think this was a U2 in this set, and nowadays it gets printed at rare. The original copy is holding its price. Right now, though, you can get Maze of Ith for like $10 on eBay, which is actually very, very good for any sort of format that has this card, because Maze of Ith is a good card. Commander, it's not the best place for it, but I have seen decks kind of take advantage of Maze of Ith, because it does have a very unique ability in the fact that it is free to use. Sure, it has the downside that it doesn't tap for mana, but it's still a good land for like a Lands Matter sort of style deck. Okay. Now on the back here, we got Safe Haven and Sorrow's Path. I don't think these are Reserve Lists either. I think they're U2 lands just like Maze of Ith. And honestly, their abilities aren't that great, but the original printings of these lands will keep their value. I think both of them are like $10 right now, but still though, they'll just continue to climb and climb and climb just because they're the original copies from the deck. And here we have Gaia's Touch. This is the misprint copy that I was telling you guys about. As you can see, the text box the text at the top, the mana symbols, and the set symbol are all printed a little bit to the left, which I thought was cool. When you go on like places like TCG Player, people don't really care about this misprint copy, so you can sometimes get this misprint copy for the same price as a regular copy. So maybe try going through like TCG Player, Card Kingdom, places like that. If you're going through eBay, people tend to jack the price up on this guy just because he is different. So just be aware of that. And yeah, that is my complete Set of the Dark. So thank you guys very much for just been talking now for like 25 minutes, you know, it's strenuous on your vocal cords. Thank you guys so very much for watching, and until next time, we'll see you then. Bye for now.